I bumped into an architect friend and he goes like, "What the fuck, Sebastian? Our architects are all complaining that you're attacking them." And we were laughing, and I was explaining I'm just, as always, following logic wherever it takes, just being true to the ideas. And it's been interesting because Arc Daily and Dezeen decided to publish these little videos, and a whole conversation has started around the capabilities of artificial intelligence replacing us within creative practices. And people seem to continue to be getting caught up with the idea that it can replace their jobs. The fact that it could replace other people's jobs, that they're fine with. But mine, the creative jobs, that never. And I think it's funny because it is somewhat illogical, right? If we were to just think back a couple decades when no one would have ever imagined a AI beating a human at chess, or a car driving itself, or Google being able to translate every language simultaneously, a computer being able to win at Jeopardy, or an AI system being capable of detecting cancer, well then, it is only logical to give for granted that that which we today think sounds quite impossible will most probably be possible. Right? And this entire notion that machines will never be able to replace us seems more defensive than rational. Because if we think about it, I honestly believe our minds are machines. They're biological, chemical machines of sorts. And if we were for a moment to leave aside any kind of spiritual or religious component, we've basically been trained by evolution to process data, project scenarios, and provide creative output. That's what we do. And that translates into a series of algorithms that allow us to do different tasks. And it's interesting because AI today does exactly that. It processes enormous amounts of info. It has a series of algorithms, and those algorithms up to now have developed specific intelligences that go for different fields. But obviously, all of these intelligence will coexist, right? Obviously, the AI that wins in chess will be paired with the AI that drives the car, and the AI that wins in Jeopardy, and etc., etc., etc. They will all be stacked together. It's just a matter of processing power, time, data. And so in that part, it's beautiful because people go like, but they'll never be able to be creative like us, because creativity is a unique condition of the human being. And I go like, whoa, sure, that sounds very comforting, but is it rational to think that, right? Like, what is creativity? I understand creativity as the ability to come up with new original combinations based on the same set of ingredients. You have an apple, you can make apple pie, or squash it and make apple juice. Different outcomes, same set of ingredients. In a way, if anyone has ever used a parametric design software or a logo design software, they are providing constant feedback almost as a brainstorming session that allows us to see many, many different options based on a set of requirements. It is riffing, it is brainstorming. And you could say, yes, but up to now, it requires a human to detect that which would be liked by other humans. I'm like, sure. But right now, we already have in 2019, all these algorithms that know what designs people are liking. There are industrial design companies today that are basing all of their designs solely on the likes of people on Amazon and their suggestions for what could be better. They're not even using humans anymore because it's not efficient. So then you could go like, Sebastian, but we have a search for creativity that is unique to us. And unless the computer is programmed with this unique existential capability, how will it find these things? And I'm like, well, AIs get trained to receive a reward every time they succeed. so do we. Right? It's like, I'm a crackhead addict for creativity and whatever it is that it gives me. I'm some form of obsessive, addicted person to whatever dopamine I get when I come up with an idea. And that's because, what is an idea, right? It's like, basically, when you're scratching your intuitive notion that there is something there in the association of new elements that maybe haven't been paired before. What you're doing is that you're sensing that there is a truth, and that's the reward. There's a truth that lies right below the surface that hasn't been seen yet, that if you were to uncover, it would provide you a giant reward. That reward was most probably some form of dopamine hit, some form of chemical sort of drug hit, but then there's enormous rewards in society. So if I'm a comedian and I just came up with this really funny bit about people who exhale when someone next to them sneezes, so that hopefully they won't inhale the sneeze. And if I'm the first one to come up with the fact that maybe we all secretly do that, well, then everyone's going to think I'm hilarious. And then that might bring me a social reward, a financial reward. Hell, a comedian probably gets to sleep with more women. It's a mating reward, or more men. Right? So there's all these rewards associated to it, and that's exactly how an AI system works. So then you could push back once again and say, okay, Sebastian, yes, an AI system, like a brain, processes enormous amounts of data, uses algorithms, seeks a reward, and basically could potentially be able to understand what is currently valuable by society if it also has all of those data sets. And you could say, well, but how could it possibly come up with that which we don't know we want yet? And to that, it's like, well, let's just add another level of difficulty, right? If we were to think of the New York Guggenheim, the spiral building, right, that we all know, by definition, it is not the most efficient design one would seek to try and present artworks that in its time were mostly flat. So the architect had to override the practicality for its symbolism, having the intuition that there was a truth in the contribution it would give to the city as an urban sculpture. Not only that, the architect at the time had to be capable of also understanding the cultural pulse of those around them. And then they would have the capabilities of decoding that which he had encoded in this building. That this building that had the requirements that were functional way down, but the requirements that were symbolic and sculptural way up, would be considered a value and a truth by society, even though they had never maybe seen that yet. That could also, obviously, be done by a machine learning system. You would just add to all the set of requirements, hey, can you please take a trend of where our cultural development is going, and be able to predict if by the time our building is about to come out, this will be understood and considered successful. So then, this is just logic. If you throw into this logic the exponential growth of our computing power, if you throw into this logic the exponential quantities of data being produced and the ability to train an AI system with them, if you think that obviously that which we think today is difficult most probably will be easy tomorrow, if you think that the entire internet from the age when it was getting plugged in is about 10,000 days old, it's just a matter of time. We can defer on how much time. We can defer on the scope of its harm to current jobs. But it's just a matter of time. And then the final question becomes, But what will happen with the sentient component? Because up to now, all of the evidence suggests that these things aren't capable of feeling and won't be capable of feeling for now. Well, then there's this beautiful question there. There is, if this thing is capable of understanding what feelings mean to us, wouldn't it therefore be capable of triggering in us those feelings even if it cannot experience the feelings it knows how to trigger? For me, that's part of the beauty. Just as part of the beauty is to not only think, will this arrive at our level, but to give for granted that obviously it will then continue and surpass us. So again, I'm not an AI expert. I'm obviously not an expert in architecture either. But I'm not trolling, I'm just following logic. My brother has a PhD in architecture. My sister-in-law has a master's in architecture. A lot of my friends are some of the best architects in the world. I'm just concerned genuinely about the subject. And if I'm giving architects in particular a hard time, it's because if I was a billionaire entrepreneur and I was about to put down $500 million to train an AI system to go after one of the creative fields, I would obviously have to go after a field that provides enormous amount of data, that has high levels of inefficiency, and that most importantly has huge quantities of financial reward I could reap as a businessman if I was to create a more efficient system. A more efficient system which by definition would have to include less people participating of the process. By definition would have to include computing machine systems replacing our more vulnerable human systems. Would that be preferable? I don't know. Will it happen? Most probably. Should we be talking about these issues? Yeah, I mean, what's the problem? Worst case scenario, we had a nice intellectual exchange. I'd rather be prepared and talk about these things earlier than later. I'd rather be wrong about the projections of time and have at least figured which way things are going. That's it. I'm super interested in the logic and thought process of how systems interconnect, and I'm just a dude who loves processing info and thinking and learning. All I do is read and think all day and map out how different components are going to affect other areas. And these little videos, I just present subjects I'm thinking about. There's nothing written here. There's no person with a camera on the other side. It's just me and my iPhone and my dog going around somewhere. And I only do these when my team is gone and the studio's empty and I don't feel like a crazy person rambling alone to my phone. Talking about dogs and all that, I need to go and walk my dog. Take care, guys. Let me know what you think, suggest ideas. Let me know if I'm wrong in anything. I'm happy to continue fixing the system. Okay? Thank you so much. And thank you to both publications for continuing to extend the dialogue to their audiences.